Andrew, you've asked about the slow, but is it as bad as we're all making out to be at Batley, or is this some kind of media myth that it's a bad thing to play up and all down?
Yeah, I just from my experience as a player and as a coach, I think I think that hill can be 16 points to you. It can be worth that much. You know what I mean? I think it's every time I've played there as a player, and even when I've coached as a coach there with my teams, you do tend to find that you do get some momentum going downhill. There's no doubt about it. So it's trying to come up with a plan to stop that momentum when the opposition are coming down, and trying to, do your best to make as many meters as you can going up that hill. But then on the flip side, it can be incredibly frustrating if you don't capitalise with that momentum as well going down the hill. So, but it's definitely, it's a unique field, as we know. It's a unique place to go because, like you said, there's no other team in the division that has that sort of style of pitch. But again, it's, I suppose, just adds something different to the competition, and you have to just, as a coach, think tactically a little bit different for how you play there.
Craig Lingard's obviously taken on a role at Castleford as well now, so pulling double duty these days. What are the different skills you need as an assistant rather than a head coach, having been in both those roles yourself?
Yeah, well, look, I think the difference is obviously, probably a good way of just simply saying it is it's all care, no responsibility, if that makes sense. I think you probably the easiest way to sum it up there. You're there to support the players, help coach them and develop them as best you can, but ultimately support the head coach as well, and a team that will carry the burden and the overall responsibility of that performance program. So that's the difference. Obviously, Craig being the head coach at Batley, well, he is responsible for how that performance program looks and how that team is coached and what's delivered in terms of content, etc. Whereas when he goes to Castleford, it'll be yes, he'll bounce stuff off with the head coach, but ultimately he'll be there, delivering what the head coach wants, in what areas, and he'll be just there coaching and doing his best, but also being that, I suppose, that arm around type thing. Sometimes I think that's probably a good way of looking at it. As an assistant, you're a bit more that kind of guy that's there to be an ear for the players and that they can kind of come to, you know what I mean? The head coach, obviously, you need to have a little bit more of a presence there as a head coach, because you could be making some decisions and you're going to be letting people down, because that's the reality. You're not there to be liked as a head coach. You're there to be respected, and you're going to have to make those tough decisions to leave people out of the team or not renew their contracts, etc. So that's where the probably differences between the roles feature. I think it's going to be an interesting challenge for Craig, balancing the two roles throughout the season, but obviously he feels he can do that. Whether anyone's going to have an element of distraction, I don't know, but so far he seems to be doing the job okay.
What is it that Batley do that other clubs need to, I say copy, but necessarily take parts of their blueprint? Because they seem to have a lot of success with the budget and everything else around the club compared to teams in the Championship.
Well, I think what I think, mate, I think there's an honesty there. I think that's the big one. I think they're honest about where they're at. They're honest about where they want to go to. You know what I mean? I think they've made it pretty clear they're not looking to be a Super League club. They're happy being a strong force in the Championship. I think they're honest and open with any player or staff member that comes in. This is what you're going to get. You get paid on time. This is what it's going to be. Take it or leave it. There's no sort of, they're not promising things that they don't have. So I that's from an outsider, my perception is there's a genuine honesty there with Batley. They live within their means. And then I think what they do quite well is they go and identify good people. They get good people in there, whether that's players or staff, people who are not going to be motivated by money, because you're not going to Batley for the money. You know what I mean? You're going there because, you feel it's a good environment. You obviously get looked after in certain, probably other different ways. They'll have some probably things there that they reward their staff and players with, that they value, that those people value. So I think that's probably what they get right there. I think they're honest as a club, and how they go about their business, and they clearly obviously get the right type of person in that environment that fits, and that's why I think they have the success that they have at the moment. Obviously, as well as being well coached as well. I think they do play to their strengths. I think the head coach recognises what they can and can't do, and has them playing to a certain way that fits them as a squad. So he's maximising what he's got there. So you've got to take your hat off to them. They're doing a really good job.
The Championship's a ridiculously tough competition. We can see that from the league table. Not how happy are you, but where would you put yourself with York at the moment compared to where you thought you'd be pre-season?
Well, I think probably taking into account everything that I knew what I was walking into. You know, I knew I was walking into a small squad at the start of the year. I knew that we had 8 or 9 guys on the treatment table, and guys obviously were going to be away during pre-season for having time off after the World Cup. So I knew it was going to be a very disrupted and disjointed pre-season in terms of not in terms of how the program was going to be run, but in terms of being able to build those combinations and get that continuity within your team in terms of your structures and your systems, etc. So I kind of knew we'd probably start slow. What probably hasn't helped is that as we have got into the season, the injury crisis hasn't eased. So albeit you might have got 1 or 2 that were missing in pre-season coming back, we've picked up a couple on the way. So it almost feels like we've still got that same amount of injuries ongoing, which has then forced us to have to keep shuffling the decks and moving people out of different positions just to fill the void. So again, we've really struggled, Richard, to get that, for me, that same 17 out any given week, for a run of games to really build some consistency and continuity in their game. So yeah, I'd probably say I think we're doing okay for where we're at the moment. I think, because don't forget, we're still a very young squad. Yeah, we've had a number. I think if you look at most of the games we've played this year, we've probably had at least 4 or 5 guys under the age of 21 playing. A lot of them in there, I've only played a handful of first grade games as well. So, they've been probably a little bit overexposed, some of those young guys, but they've had to hold the fort for us, so to speak. So I think the fact that we're still alive in 3 competitions, I think, is a credit to the group that we have. We're in the semi-finals of the 1895 Cup. We're in the quarterfinals, and the only remaining championship club in the quarterfinals of the Challenge Cup, and we're effectively 2 wins out of the top 6. So we're hanging in there in the championship at the moment. But I think, in the grand scheme of things, in the context of things, I think we're doing okay for where we're at.
Finally, my geography is not as good as it used to be. Torquay, is that New South Wales or Queensland?
Torquay, Devon, mate. Torquay, Devon.
Did you watch Origin yesterday? Will you be watching the women's game today?
I've got it taped. I've got it taped to watch, mate. So yes, I'll be looking back on it, mate. But if you're asking me who do I follow, I'm a Blues boy. So I'm a Blues boy there, Rich.
No spoilers. No spoilers. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, mate.